Okay, I want to talk about the 5 waves that have taken place in the referral marketing industry over the last 40 years or so. 5 different waves. And we're in the middle of the 5th one right now. We're just getting into the 5th wave. The first one, we'll call that 70 and before 70, before the 1970s and before. And that was the garage wave, or the garage era. In the garage era, all of the products came to your garage and got stuck on shelves in your garage for people to come and take off of your shelf and buy from you as if you owned your own little store. It was painful. There was a lot of paperwork. There was a lot of pain and suffering. There was a lot of product got left around behind when you decided not to do the business anymore. That was the garage phase. And then the next phase was the UPS, FedEx, shipping phase. And this was probably the 80s. Somewhere in the 80s we saw the shipping phase. This was a really big change in the industry because the mainframes arrived at the companies. They kept track of everybody, including all the customers. No longer did you have to scribble out a little tiny slip of paper for a series of products and hand it off to the people. UPS and FedEx and the big mainframe computers took care of all that for you and shipped directly to your distributor, directly to the end customer. And it was a lot more elegant, a lot more exciting to be out of the garage product business. Then, in the 90s, notice it takes time for these to evolve. In the 90s, we saw Ma Bell, AT&T, the telecoms, broken up. And all of a sudden, instead of paying exorbitant long-distance rates to talk to people around the country, you could pay $30 or whatever the number was for the whole month. Flat rate long distance had arrived. And this was kind of the harbinger of cheap communication like we have today with the internet and with flat rate cells and flat rate long distance and voice over IP services that are cheap. But it didn't come until the 90s, and people took huge advantage of this by sitting on the phone and calling 200, 300 people a day, day after day, and building large organizations around the country because Ma Bell got broken up. So that was that was the 3rd wave. And then it took until the mid-2010, or somewhere in here, 2005, let's call it 2005, and we have all of a sudden the broadband wave. We'll call this the broadband wave of the industry. Now, what do I mean by broadband wave? Well, internet got fast. And actually, this had happened back in the late 90s. I had high-speed cable in 1998, and everybody I knew had high-speed cable in 1998 because I was in tech support. And if you didn't have high-speed cable and you were in tech support, everybody you were working with was looking at you funny, like, what are you doing? And around 2003 to 2006, and it's still ongoing to this day, we saw this massive scale up and penetration of markets with broadband, high-speed DSL. DSL got more stable, cable got much more widespread, cable got more faster, more reliable. There was less cable that was oversold, where you jumped on your cable with everybody else in the neighborhood and it didn't work at all. That largely got solved, not everywhere, but for the most part. And the world got broadband. Korea went to 98% or 96%, South Korea, all broadband. And other parts of the world got broadband and got religion and said, well, you know, we're not going to make it in this thing if we're all on dial-up. And the only people who were orphaned were really rural places and really obscure countries. Those were the two that were left out of this revolution, and still are in some cases today. So that, and what that did was that precipitated a change in the industry that was dependent upon the broadband speed to be there. And that was high-speed video for video sharing, it was high speed, also computers. This was plus the PC. Don't forget the PC in here, because the PC's got a lot faster. In the last 5 years or so, 5 to 7 years, the PCs were way faster than they were back in the 90s. They just didn't cut it. They weren't enough for video, not enough for multimedia. Even the Macs weren't enough to do what they can do, as of half a dozen or so years ago. So you had now the processing power on your desktop or on your notebook. Increasingly, more and more mobile devices got that power too, to see full motion video, to listen to streaming audio, to participate in live interactive websites that let you do all kinds of things that you couldn't do even just a couple of years before this started to happen. And we got MySpace first, and then we got Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and a whole bunch of other services and sites and technologies that we didn't have prior to this broadband really getting fast. And this made a gigantic difference in the referral marketing industry, because all of a sudden you had the ability to practice what we pretty universally now refer to as attraction marketing, where you can build authority, you can publish your own radio channel, your own TV series, you can literally make late night television commercials and just for free upload them to 20 video sharing sites. You can blog, you can build communities, you can write articles and publish them all around the world. You can become the authority, and once you have established yourself as an authority, somebody who teaches, somebody who pays it forward, then you have the ability to generate large numbers of leads, and that translates into large organizations. That's the fourth wave. Now the fifth wave is just upon us, and it's probably, I'm going to call it 2011, and I'm going to call it the 100% wave. The 100% wave. What do I mean by 100% wave? Well, somebody got the brilliant idea, actually years before this, but not on this scale. All of a sudden, the scale of people thinking about and coming out with products that paid a 100% commission. Think about that for a second. Instead of earning 10%, like people who promote an Amazon book or DVD, or 25%, or even 50%, which was a very common internet marketing commission rate, a common ClickBank and other commissionable processing company rates. All of a sudden, you got to keep all of it, 100% commission. Very disruptive, very challenging to other more conventional arenas of the industry, and it's really starting to have an impact on things in the space. And 2011 really is the first year that we saw it producing millions of dollars in commissions for people, and starting to have as big of a disruption to the space as it's having now in 2012, or this is 2012. So those are your 5 waves, from garage to 100%. And each one of them picked up steam. We're now at $150 billion a year in business. Some figures put the number of people involved in this at 60 million. That's a padded number because a lot of them are not doing a lot, but that's a lot of people that are involved, and that's a lot of money. That's a big cross-section of the commerce going on in the gross domestic product of the world. So there are your 5 waves.